Hello, everyone, and welcome to the post-race show for the Pro Invitational Series race at Talladega Superspeedway. We've got a stacked lineup for you. We have Landon Cassill, who was in the race. It just ended about 15 minutes ago over on Fox. And we have the voice of the Coca-Cola Series and the voice of Saturday Night Thunder. That is Evan Pasoko. If you don't recognize the name, you'll recognize the voice if you watch any iRacing at all. But now let's jump in to a quick top five. Here are your top five finishers. Alex Bowman, of course, was your race winner. The finish of that race, we'll have a highlight for you a little bit later. It was absolutely amazing. We have Corey LaJoie in second, Ryan Preece in third, Garrett Smithley in fourth, and our guest Landon Cassill is fifth. Now, let's jump into the highlights a little bit. Lap 16, Jeff Gordon caught up in a big wreck. His Exalta Pepsi Chevrolet goes up in the air and flips a few times. Then Brad Keselowski, Brendan Poole have a brief incident. They're able to collect it down on the apron. They save their race cars. Then, out of all things to happen to Clint Bowyer, his bad luck has been rampant throughout these Pro Invitational Series races. He's leading the race, but he's behind Alex Bowman. Bowman's trying not to go a lap down. Bowyer's car overheats. Bowyer, then his engine expires. He's taken out of contention. Then Jeff Gordon, after a reset, wrecks again. Him and Chase Elliott get caught up. Talking about wrecking your boss, so to speak, Chase Elliott takes out Jeff Gordon there. And then teammates, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, they have a late race incident. Blaney went for a wild virtual ride, so to speak. And then the finish of the race, Ty Dillon threw a block there at the end. It didn't work out, but it did work out for Alex Bowman. Bowman ends up winning that race. But now let's get down to the meat of the show. A competitor in that race is Landon Cassill. Landon, thanks for joining us here on the post-race show. Hopefully you feel a little bit better than that with me guiding this thing. So top five finish. Let's talk about what it's like in a sim at Talladega. I've got a couple of AI starts, so to speak. I can't tell where the nose of the car is, where the tail of the car is, who's to my left, who's to my right. Talk about the struggle of depth perception when you're racing one of these simulators if you don't have a spotter.
Yeah, depth perception is an issue, and that's why I run 3 monitors so that I can kind of look to my right and left and see what's next to me. But really, it doesn't tell you how far away they are. So I have a spotter that is an iRacer. His name's Kyle Putz. He's really good, and he helps me with some of that depth perception. But really, it just takes laps. You just have to learn, and you have to get close to people. Sometimes you're going to bump them too hard, and that experience eventually pays off.
All right, where does that all figure into avoiding a big wreck? If someone's to your outside and they get tagged, can you avoid that if you're going head on through something? I know a lot of people, they just say they keep it matted because they have a reset. So what's your strategy? How do you avoid the big one at a track like Talladega?
It's really hard to avoid. I mean, it's hard to avoid a big one in real life, and it's probably even a little bit harder to avoid it in iRacing just because the cars move just a little bit differently, and drivers react differently to wrecks in iRacing than they do in real life. So I think that lack of immersion can change that a little bit, but it's some of the same principles apply. Like at Talladega, if there's a huge wreck and you're behind the wreck and approaching it, it's really best to go to the high side and slow down as much as possible. The cars will clean off the track themselves. That works in iRacing and in real life, and that's how I missed the final wreck and was able to get myself into the top 5 at the end.
All righty, a fifth place day for you. What was the finish of that thing like? What's it like through, I guess, your screen when you see Ty go up to make a block, then he looks like he cuts down on Corey, and then, all heck breaks loose there at the end?
Yeah, it was wild. I just was trying to be patient and wait for Alex to make a wrong move. I was hoping that he had cleared himself of the inside car, the leader. I think it might have been Ty Dillon. He had cleared himself several times, and he really looked like he was thinking about going low, which would have been the wrong move to make. But he didn't make that move. He did a really good job. Stayed in the middle lane, as tempting as it was to clear himself. and that just kind of limited my options to be able to make a move that wouldn't have caused a big wreck. So I was just hanging on tight, trying to keep a good push going, keep our line going as well, and I wanted to go up that middle, but I didn't get that chance to. And when they wrecked at the end, fortunately, I was able to get through it and get that top 5.
All right, well, we're going to let you go, but before we do that, tell the people what you got going on. I know you're always on Twitch streaming some sort of iRacing event, so what are you doing the rest of the day? What's the rest of your week look like?
The rest of the day, I'm going to go hang out with my family. I'm streaming right now on twitch.tv/Landon Cassill, so you'll get to see a little behind the scenes of what's going on. It's as you can see, I spend most of my time here in this Blue Emu cockpit. Yesterday, Parker Kligerman, Garrett Smithley, Byron Daly, and I ran the 24 hours in Nürburgring on iRacing. So 4 drivers, 24 hours. We drove the NASCAR sponsored Mercedes AMG. We were Team NAS Boys, and we made a T-shirt for it. It is so cool. You have to check it out on my website, landoncassill.com. And we're gonna take all the money from the T-shirt and give it to Joshua Mendoza, who was our team principal, who managed all 4 of us drivers for 24 hours, and I think he only had like an hour of sleep. So it's really cool. We just have a lot of fun on iRacing. I'm streaming almost every day right now during this quarantine. I'm so ready to go back real racing, but this is definitely filling a gap. And I'll be racing in the replacements. I'll be racing in Pro Invitational Series and streaming almost every night.
All right, Landon, the next addition to the Blue Emu cockpit is a functioning window net you need to climb in and out of that sim with. But anyways, we're going to let you scoot out of here. We're going to take a look at the lap leaders from Talladega, get a quick look at everyone who was up front. But now we will welcome in Evan Pasoko, the voice of many things iRacing from the Coca-Cola series. It's streamed every other Tuesday night on iRacing's YouTube page and on NASCAR.com's YouTube page, as well as Saturday Night Thunder. He was at it last night. Evan, how are you?
Well, we had a lot of fun with that race last night, and honestly, I was shocked at today's race. I think the Cup guys did better. Just got done helping out behind the scenes with all the Fox stuff, and it was a great race. Alex Bowman, first-time winner, so we were kind of wondering how many weeks William Byron was going to go with this streak, but Bowman put a stop to it, and I was thoroughly entertained, and hope everybody at home was as well.
All right, well, let's break down that Jeff Gordon wreck, the first one, the big one. I think we have an in-car angle that we're going to put up on the screen. Kind of echo, I'll talk to you a little bit about what I talked to Landon about, of just knowing where things are virtually around you. How hard is it to avoid a wreck like we saw Jeff Gordon get caught up in? And, he ends up flipping over in the air and the catch fence. It's not hard to drive one of these cars in iRacing.
It was tough, and I think Landon touched on what is super important is he actually has a live spotter in the sim with him, which helps with a lot of that. But if you do not have somebody in the service with you, you have an automated spotter, and it'll be a voice in your ear, and it'll tell you exactly when there's a car outside, exactly when a car down low. But it's all computer generated, obviously. So it's not going to tell you, hey, this lane's coming up faster. These guys are kind of getting into trouble. So you have to kind of think a little bit more and look around, and maybe that can distract you a little bit from what you were doing in the sim. So that's the biggest thing, is that situational awareness. You don't have that support all the time. And I know Jeff didn't have a live spotter, but at least in that first one, he had a lot of trouble today. After starting off pretty good. But in that first one, when cars go spinning in front of you, it's the same as real Talladega. There's nothing you can do. And the fun part about the sim is, Jeff can have a big mess like that in turn 3, and him and Clint can laugh about it instead. All
right, let's talk about Clint Bowyer. He's been snake bit the entire time we've been in the Pro Invitational Series. By the way, Gordon finished 38th. Bowyer comes home 33rd after leading the race, following Alex Bowman a little too closely. I guess it's hard for a person who's, not used to sim racing, who's been in a real race car. They know to look at the gauges. They know, to look at whether or not they're overheating or not. How much of a heartbreaker is it for Bowyer to be in such good position midway through that race to end up, blowing his motor to overheating, really cost him shot to win?
Yeah, it can be super tough, and that's where having that sim time is an advantage. I think we saw Kaz Grala do the same thing last night in Saturday Night Thunder, lost the engine. And there's so many different factors that can come into play. The temperature in the sim is going to lead those temps to go up a little bit higher. So you do have to manage, even when you're not pushing, stick a nose out, get a little bit of air, but you're not going to see the water coming up in front of you as the driver. We do have the digital dash on these virtual cars, so that number will start flashing red when you get up into the danger zone. But if it's a clean car, if your nose has got a little bit of damage, all those are different factors that'll determine how much you can push. And to be honest, I think Clint was just having way too much fun to even be looking down at the digital dash. He was out there riding up front, pushing hard, and unfortunately lost the engine. That's happened to many great sim racers over time. Clint's not the first. He won't be the last.
All right, I know I feel like we're picking on Boyer and Gordon, but let's go back to Gordon. He was involved in a second incident with Chase Elliott as well, as we know that Jeff's still highly involved over at Hendrick Motorsports. We were joking that he kind of wrecked his boss. Let's take a look and listen to that and how that came across on the broadcast.
Running together.
Who is nowhere near him. Chase is up on the outside.
But look. Oh, here he comes.
Yeah. Chase got turned by Brennan Poole, Jeff.
Okay.
And then Poole got up and into the wall with you, and Landon Cassill hit the wall.
All right, so Gordon, really, I don't think both incidents were any of his fault, and it's his first time really being out there and with these guys on the sim. So with all that we saw from Jeff, how would you grade his performance today?
Honestly, I thought he did really well. He was working early in practice, working with Chase, and actually him and Clint were bump drafted a bit in practice as well to get a good time in. He didn't qualify that well, though. He started back in the 30s, and you mentioned him and Chase Elliott. Those two kind of hooked up, and they drove all the way to the front just before that first incident. And then by that time, he had used his one quick repair. He was kind of back in the pack, and there was a couple of incidents, smaller ones, that did not bring out a yellow because it was so far behind the leaders. So Jeff was kind of lagging back. He was just running around. And, I'm sure Jeff could tell you he's had many of those on the plate tracks in the real world. You're just running around. It was probably the only time him and Chase weren't hooked up. Chase being up on the outside comes down into him. And unfortunately, I think he had some substantial damage to fix. And it's the way it goes. I think I will say, though, watching the broadcast as well, having the open mic with Jeff and Clint, having a great time was super fun. And it sounds like they're not going to be able to convince him to come back for Dover, but his return to racing, if you will, was certainly an exciting one. And we'll get a couple of good screenshots and grabs of that race. I know they're not the ones the 24 would have wanted, but it got TV time one way or another.
Absolutely, yeah. Logos flying through the air everywhere. All right, let's move on to the next big wreck. Teammates get caught up. It looks like Logano just hard right into Blaney there, and Blaney goes through the air. We actually have the full replay of that as well. Let's take a listen and look.
These guys are moving. Oh, there it is.
Nope, just one. Oh, Logano hard in the wall on the outside, and that might have been Kyle Busch with him. Whoa, Blaney, up, down, kabong.
All right, so what do we make of that? Is that just a racing deal? I mean, we've seen some things malfunction or technical difficulties as well, but man, that was a big crash, and taking out your virtual teammate like that can't be good, can it?
Yeah, that's like the one rule, right? is you don't take out your teammate, and it's kind of dramatic irony in the fact that at Talladega is kind of the one place where you can really use your teammates to your advantage. Obviously not what you want to see, but you mentioned the technical issues. It's just like being in the real car where something breaks, something can go wrong with your sim. Denny Hamlin had a middle monitor go out at one point in the race that caused him to get into an accident.
That might be the most important one, by the way.
Exactly. You can lose the peripherals, but if you lose the middle one, that's pretty tough to manage on. It's just different things that can happen. I don't know what happened from behind the wheel, but at the end of the day, these drivers go out there and they're giving it 110%. We actually talked with Kyle Busch on Saturday Night Thunder, and I was asking him, are you going to hang back? We got 70 laps. You going to be careful? He's like, man, I've got to reset. I'm going to go out there and race it until the car's done. And I think that even though it wasn't always up front, even the guys throw at the pack were kind of giving it their all night.
Well, also keep in mind, I do think that Denny Hamlin's probably has the most, is the active driver with the most times the hoods come up on the race car. So when the middle monitor goes out, it's probably the same thing. He's well versed in it. I think he will live to race another day for sure. All right, how about that last lap? We had 4, almost 5 wide there at the end with Ty Dillon. kind of made a bad move, but kind of saved it, but then went around, I think, off the nose of LaJoie there at the end. Alex Bowman ends up winning this thing, his first win in the Pro Invitational Series. So really an A-plus finish from what I've seen, but you've seen a lot more iRacing than me, so grade this one for us.
No, it was great. It was definitely an A finish. Ty had the bottom, and that's kind of the preferred spot that you want to be in, obviously, but you're not really getting a run down low. And you could see Bowman and those other drivers coming up on the outside, and he had a choice. Hold the bottom, hope he gets the push, or try to go up and block, and he kind of did both. He started to go up to block the outside, and then once he realized these guys are alongside of me, he tried to come back down. Car low at that point. We've seen it happen many times at Talladega in the Tri-Oval. If that's Daytona, he probably wins it if they're coming, to a straight shot to the line. And then, of course, Bowman on the outside almost lost it because here comes Ryan Preece squeezed up against the outside wall, and I think he got him by about a half a car length. So for those drivers to be able to fan it out, we knew it was going to happen off the four. We were too wide, expected who was going to make the moves. That's kind of a quintessential iRacing finish, is guys diving all over the place, those allegiances fall apart, and Alex Bowman obviously real happy to get the job done, and Talladega brings the thrills in the sim just like it does in real life.
All right, last one before we let you out of here. We're doing a kind of a helmet sticker deal. We're going to call it the paint chip. Who's got the best paint scheme from the Pro Invitational Series? So if you had to pick one paint scheme from today's race, who would you give that paint chip to?
Well, I think the kind of the easy answer would be Jeff Gordon, just seeing that car back on the track. But I've really liked Timmy Hill's ride the last couple of weeks as he brought some new partners on and obviously had some great success. One of the noted iRacers. He's actually been a competitor for a couple of years here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series as recently as last year. I think that might be my favorite looking paint scheme in the field, and maybe he can get it up front and get a win, and maybe we can see a die cast made into that, because that's I think my favorite trend out of all of this is we're getting some iRacing exclusive die casts, and I can promise you they are all on order to add to the collection over there.
All right, I lied to you. I've got one more question. Give us a Dover preview. What can we expect to see on the virtual monster mod?
Yeah, well, it's obviously very different than anything we've seen. We've seen the Bristols and the Richmonds kind of in that short track range, and obviously Dover doesn't technically classify as a short track at a mile, but it certainly races like one. Guys are going to be fighting hard to get to the bottom. If you're looking forward to what we're going to see on Sunday, tune in with us on Tuesday for our next round of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It'll be a 9 Eastern start. This Tuesday at eNASCAR.com/live. That's a race as well, though, where things can kind of get crazy. It's one or the other. We kind of look at our trends in iRacing. We either have a bunch of wrecks or we go green all the way. So it's kind of hard to predict it. But I think the biggest thing we'll learn from these Cup guys is they're taking the practice races seriously. The first 2 weeks we had one during the week and then two, and they had like 3 or 4 this week. So these drivers, well, yes, they're keeping it lighthearted and fun. They're putting in a ton of practice time, and I think you'll see a great show.
All right, you can catch more of Evan on the World of eNASCAR show. That's on NASCAR's platforms as well. If you want more information on Dover, he and Alex Weaver will break it down on there. Evan, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate all you guys watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want more of this content. And make sure you tune in next week as the Pro Invitational Series tackles Dover.